I know if I want to lose weight, but there's a tub of ice cream in my fridge. Like, I don't know if it's, I'll worry about that tomorrow and just eat the ice cream today. And I think an actual imperative that this is wrong, it helps people struggle against pornography. What do you feel like are the perceptions that are out there related to sexuality and Christian pastors? And you're not going to hurt my feelings, by the way. I'd love to hear kind of your uncensored view.
Yeah, I have the feeling that, and so these would be guesses, I suppose, but I would guess that whether you call it, let's say in the religious community, you might call it sexual sin. In the rest of the world, you might say bad habits, bad online habits, right? Yeah. I have the feeling that they are so ubiquitous that I would imagine it's very, very likely that a very large proportion of the church, including the ministry, the ministers, are watching and using porn. It is so widespread. And another thing is, like, from my personal experience of getting involved in like a university church, as I mentioned with one of my previous girlfriends, like the guys there they basically had no fewer problems with sex and porn. They just had much more pain and guilt. But I think I have a sort of maybe a bit more insight than the average non-Christian, because I've gone pretty deep into that community in a way. So you kind of realize that Christians are pretty much have all the same problems and everything as non-Christians, but they just feel about them in different ways, and they have and they are thinking about them in different ways as well.
Okay.
And with a different a mindset of like really wanting to eliminate those problems rather than tolerating them or accepting them or normalizing them. That's the big difference. Is it's not normalized at all. Whereas in everyday society, it's completely normalized.
You're right. Which makes it tough for the app you're trying to build too. When the normalization doesn't help anybody, whether they have an ethical framework coming at it or just this makes me better or worse of a person. Yeah. That's helpful. I was curious what your perceptions were. I think you're pegging it close. The struggles are within the church, even church leadership, and that's that's why it makes it all the more necessary to have the conversation we're having here. And I would just say too, I think about maybe a different approach from just a full-on kind of secular approach, and I don't mean secular in a bad way. I just mean kind of without an explicit connection to a God, if there is God, just kind of what is good thinking about this. And so I mean that in a good sense, secular. But a difference between this explicitly Christian one would be a few different things. And I think one of them would be the ethical framework, to me, is actually a helpful thing, because like every January, everybody wants to be a different person when it comes around to December, right? They, eat a little less calories or do this or that, or work harder in this area of their life. But like, unless you have a real moral imperative that this is wrong, I think that's going to be tough to long-term have success. And I listened to, your previous guest, your first guest, who was in the adult business, and how wrong that was as she experienced it, and I would say as the people watched it. And so I think having this is wrong, while that's, sometimes the Christian community is characterized as that's all we say, it's actually a helpful thing to say, because I know if I want to lose weight, but there's a tub of ice cream in my fridge, like, I don't know if it's, I'll worry about that tomorrow and just eat the ice cream today. And I think an actual imperative that this is wrong, it helps people struggle against pornography.